الاعتكاف، نويت الخلوة، نويت العزلة، نويت الرياضة، نويت الرياضة، نويت السلوك لله تعالى العظيم في هذا المسجد. They said that Rasul ya Sayyidi Madad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. They said that speak something make us happy. Don't say something that frightening us. Because frightening to make someone to be expecting some attack on him is important. If there is no attack, you feel peaceful, you might fall in the trap of shaitan, and you consider what you are doing within the range of peaceful. But what shaitan always is a tricky one. Try to come in different ways to attack you. So you have to have, instead of be defensive, you must be offensive. You don't wait until the danger come and you begin to try to defend it, push it. But before the danger come, you must always be ready with your readiness completely, with your mind, with your heart, with your brain, with your arrow, that any kind of attack from shaitan comes, you throw on him. So not necessary every time we have to speak about petting. Allah happy to pet his servants, make them feel happy, but sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send strong messages. He said, وَمَا نُرْسِلُ بِالْآيَاتِ إِلَّا تَخْوِيفًا. Verily we send verses of Holy Quran to make people aware, to fear of what is coming. We are not aware, and every one of us is doing what he likes, and we don't know what is the consequences. So as much as you are aware, as much as Allah will happy with you. I used to, every time, used to hear from Grand Shaykh, may Allah bless his soul, that always after Ayatul Azab, verses of punishment in Holy Quran, mostly after Ayatul Azab, when you are reading, after that come Ayatul Rahmah, verses of mercy, to neutralize, to nullify, not to balance, correct, to balance, because Abd has to be worried and afraid, and in the same time, when he is afraid, Allah send him a verse of Rahmah. That's why he said, وَمَا نُرْسِلُ بِالْآيَاتِ إِلَّا تَخْوِيفًا. We do not send verses إِلَّا تَخْوِيفًا, except to scare you, means in the hidden we are happy with you. There is our Rahmah is there that will take care of you and balance what is you are afraid of. But you be ready. So what Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith, that إذا كان الغالب على عبد الاشتغال بي جعلت همه ولذته في ذكري. If my servant, what all his mind and heart is to remember me, I will make his ladza, desire, the pleasure, I make his pleasure is to continuously remember me through his heart, and I avoid shaitan from that person. Because what he is trying to do is trying to make his own pleasure me, to remember me. So that's why awliyaullah, they went through that road, and they found that zikrullah is important in our life. And I was looking at this this is a statistics. For example, to balance everything, Allah gave everything a balance, as we said before. Ayatul azab wa ayatul rahma. What is the opposite of azab? Rahma or maghfirah. Ayatul azab, ayatul rahma. Ayatul fasad, corruption, ayatul nafa, benefit. Ayatul sayf, ayatul shita. Ayatul rusul, ayatul anbiya. Ayatul dunya, ayatul akhirah. Is that? And this is a schedule that, subhanallah, how much you can see the greatness in Holy Quran. For example, ayatul jaza. What is jaza? Punishment. It is mentioned in Holy Quran 117 times. Ayatul jaza, that Allah is punishing 117 times. Ayatul maghfirah, mentioned 117 times. Ayatul to forgiveness is 117 times. Ayatul masir, what's masir? Destiny, is mentioned 28 times. What's going to happen to you, to the believers, it is mentioned in Holy Quran, Ayatul masir, 28 times. Living forever, Ayatul abad, it is mentioning 28 times. Allahu Akbar. Allah is telling you, I am punishing you, be aware. وَمَا نُرْسِلُ بِالْآيَاتِ إِلَّا تَخْوِيفًا. We sent ayat, verses of Quran to threaten or to make you aware, to make you fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But on the other side, I'm balancing it with ayatul maghfirah. That one is mentioned 117 times, punishment. Maghfirah, forgiveness, mentioned 117 times. If you can balance, Allah gave you opportunity. Balance. Find way to balance maghfirah and balance it with ayatul jaza. You'll be entering paradise. If you gave more to ayatul maghfirah from ayatul jaza, then you will be going to paradise with no account. If you make istighfar daily. That's why followers of shuyukh, they give them to do from 300 to 700 astaghfirullah, or 100 times astaghfirullah, or 10 times astaghfirullah, or 70 times astaghfirullah. But do astaghfirullah in order that it will cut ayatul jaza. We mentioned kalimatul masir, destiny, where you are going to go if you follow that line or you follow that line. Where you are going to go 28 times. Ayatul abad, ever living, 28 times. Ayatul dunya. How many times dunya is mentioned in Holy Quran? Anyone knows? 115 times. Dunya by name mentioned 115 times. Similarly, Ayatul Akhirah, ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة. آتنا في الدنيا, dunya is mentioned in Holy Quran 115 times. Akhirah is mentioned in Holy Quran 115 times. How then? It is manufactured by human being, Holy Quran. Written by human being, impossible. Ayatul Hayat, ayat of living. Al Hayat, life. Ayatul Hayat is mentioned in Holy Quran 71 times. Ayatul Maut, death, is mentioned in Holy Quran 71 times. Allahu Akbar. Holy Quran mentioning Hayat, living, 71 times. Mentioning death 71 times. Balancing. I am balancing for you, Allah saying. I'm not punishing. I punish, but you have a choice for my maghfirah, for my rahmah on the other side. You want dunya? Okay, I mentioned dunya for you 71 times. And I mentioned dunya, we said 115 times. I mentioned akhirah 115 times. Means balance between both them. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة. How many times ayatul Saif, summer, mentioned in Holy Quran? Even summer is mentioned in Holy Quran 5 times. And wherever it is mentioned, when you say Saif, what does that mean? For example, we are giving an example. Means anything that includes from Adam of alayhi salam till day of judgment. How many times? Saif means a season that is warm. Saif is summer. So anything happening in that Saif, in this summer, in these summers, from Adam alayhi salam, are mentioned in these 5 places in Holy Quran where Saif is being mentioned. All their secrets. Awliyaullah can go inside and dive in that ocean and pull meanings and pull events and pull history and pull everything they want to know about summer. And what Allah has given in dunya in summer, Allah will give them that knowledge. Ayatul Shita, how many times? Saif 5 times, mentioned in Holy Quran. Shita, mentioned 5 times. Why it's always same numbers? This is what you call this is eloquency of Quran, and this is the i'jaz of Quran, that impossible for a human to do that. How many times Ayatul Har, heat, is mentioned in Holy Quran? It's mentioned 4 times. And Ayatul Bard, Ayat cold, is mentioned 4 times. Resurrection day, how many times is being mentioned? Ba'ath. It is mentioned for 45 times. Ayatul Siratul Mustaqim, 45 times. Means I am bringing you for questioning, judging you. It is mentioned that Ba'ath means Allah going to bring us 45 times mentioning 45 times, reminding us of the day of resurrection, and in the same time mentioning about everyone going to pass on Sirat al-Mustaqim in the day of resurrection 45 times. Writing. Every time you pass on every ayah that being mentioned these attributes, these words, there are meaning inside, as we said, and only Allah gave these secrets to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Prophet gave for awliyaullah, the inheritors of awliyaullah. Ayatul Sayyat mentions Sayyat in it. How many times Sayyat been mentioned in Holy Quran? Is 167 times. Allah mentioning, describing Sayyat in Holy Quran. And As-Salihat, how many it is mentioned, Ayatul that mentioning As-Salihat in it? Means Salihat means good deeds. 167 times. Al-Jahim, how many times hellfire been mentioned? 39 times. And how many times the sin is being mentioned? 39 times. Every sin on our opposite side has hellfire, a punishment. Allah mentioning punishment and mentioning sins. Avoid the sins, you avoid punishment. How many times it is mentioned in Holy Quran, Al-Basar wal-Basira? Basar, vision, Basira, inner vision. How many times it is mentioned? It's mentioned 148 times. How many times the heart and chest, fu'ad, the inner heart, is being mentioned? 148 times. Continue. How many times the cursed one? Who is the cursed one? Iblis. That's why it is forbidden for anyone to curse anyone. Allah only cursed Iblis. Other human being, you cannot curse them. How many times Iblis was cursed? Iblis was mentioned in Holy Quran? 11 times. How many times Allah said to us, seek refuge from Iblis through me? How many times? 11 times. Every time something is being mentioned, it has a meaning different from the meaning that of the same name being mentioned before. If Iblis is being mentioned 11 times, and every time it has a different meaning. And in every time you seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from Iblis, it has a meaning. Many Pakistani, they come and Arabs like us, they come and they say we have sihr. How many times sihr has been mentioned in Holy Quran? 60 times. Black magic. Allahu Akbar. Allah mentioned sihr 60 times. Means there is sihr or no? There is sihr. When you do sihr, you do what? Fitna happens. How many times fitna is mentioned in Holy Quran? Similarly the same, 60 times. Means every time someone makes sihr, there is on the opposite side a fitna coming. How to cancel it? Seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Say أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. How many times Allah has mentioned in Holy Quran for people to give infaq, to give charity? If it was not important, Allah will not mention. Charity is important. How many times is it mentioned? 73 times. How many times Allah is happy with your charity? Mentioned Rida, Ar-Rida, 73 times. How this happens? Huh? Yani, you have to put your head on floor and make sajda all your life. You don't raise and say Ya Rabbi, except Ya Rabbi shukran, shukran laka ya Allah, shukran laka, ash-shukru lillah, ash-shukru lillah, shukran ya Allah. How many times ujub, arrogance, or pride, be proud of yourself, how many times is mentioned? 27 times. How many times arrogant is mentioned? Ghurur, 27 times. Ujub, ghurur. Proud of yourself means pride, 27 times. Ghurur, ujub, arrogance is 27 times. Ujub is 27 times, ghurur is 27 times. How many times the word kafirun, unbelievers, been mentioned in Holy Quran? 154 times. Allah mentioned by the words of kafirun, 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 kafirun. How many times nar is being mentioned? Hellfire, 127 times. And 54 times. 154 times mentioned the ayat of kufr, and the same time hellfire and nar, fire, is being mentioned 154 times. How many times religion, ad-din, been mentioned? It's mentioned 92 times. And where the deen is, always you find it in where? In masajid. So in masajid, how many times is mentioned in Holy Quran? Is mentioned 92 times. Hajjah. Subhanallah. When you recite Quran, means you are a pious, salih person. A lady salihah, a man salih. When you read Quran, how many times it is mentioned tilawa, means recitation of Holy Quran in Quran? 62 times. Means read and read and read tilawa. How many times is mentioned salihat? Same 62 times. Means anyone who read tilawa, he will become salih. How many times salat, prayer, is mentioned in Holy Quran? 67 times. And when you pray, you find safety, najat. You'll be safe. You go to paradise. How many times it is mentioned safety in Holy Quran? 67 times. Together with Malaika and Quran. I'm skipping some because how many times fasting is being mentioned? Sawm, 14 times. When you are fasting, you, especially in these countries, you fast 17, 18 hours. You are a sabir, you are patient. So those who are fasting Sawm, they are patient, sabr. So how many times Sawm is being mentioned? 14 times. How many times sabr is being mentioned? 14 times. How many times mind is mentioned? Aql, intelligence. And intelligence, you cannot see it, is light. It's electromagnetic waves, it's a wave. How many times is mentioned? 49 times. And how many times an-nur is being mentioned? That magnetic field, that light that goes everywhere. 49 times. How many times war is being mentioned? Harb. 6 times. How many times prisoners being mentioned in Holy Quran? 6 times. Because in war you get prisoners. Don't be a prisoner to shaitan. Declare war on shaitan. How many times kalimatul huda, guidance, is being mentioned in Holy Quran? 79 times. When you are guided, this is coming from Allah, rahmah on you. So huda mentioned 79 times, rahmah mentioned 79 times. If you have love, mahabba, you have to have obedience, ta'ah. So the one who has love to Allah, ati'u Allah wa ati'u Rasul. Man ata'a Rasul faqad ata'a Allah. Who has love to Allah, he has to have ta'ah. How many times love is being mentioned in Holy Quran? Anyone knows? I don't know, I'm checking. 83 times. How many times at-ta'ah, obedience, been mentioned in Holy Quran? 83 times. How many times is mentioned al-qunut? In witr, we make some school of thought they do qunut in witr. Some school of thought they do qunut in fajr. So how many times qunut is being mentioned? 13 times. How many times ruku' being mentioned? Qunut, ruku' first, then qunut. 13 times. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. How many times kalimatul jahr? To say something loud, jahr. How many times it's been mentioned? 16 times. How many times alaniya? Open for anyone to see is the same, 16 times. How many times al-hars being mentioned in Holy Quran? Hars is to plow. Is mentioned 14 times. How many times planting fruit is mentioned in Holy Quran? 14 times. Plow 14 times. Plow your field. Then the fruit comes. And plantation comes 14 times. Means plant yourself, plant your body, plant your soul with Allah, plow your body, plow your soul for planting zikrullah. Allah will give you from His zara, from heavenly plantation. How many times the word shajar, tree, is being mentioned in Holy Quran? Ash-shajara, tree. 26 times. How many times nabat, plants, has been mentioned in Holy Quran? 26 times. How many times? From what is a human being being created from? From mud. How many times mud being mentioned in Holy Quran? 12 times. How many times nutfa, sperm, is mentioned in Holy Quran? 12 times. How many times shidda, to be tough, toughness, is being mentioned? And how many times sabr is being mentioned, patience? You have to be patient on toughness. It is mentioned 102 times. And sabr is being mentioned 102 times. How many times Quran is mentioned in Holy Quran? The word Quran? 70 times. How many times Islam is mentioned in Holy Quran? 70 times. How many times Risala, message, is mentioned in Holy Quran? 49 times. And how many times the word surah is 49 times. How many times Malakut is being mentioned, heavenly kingdom? 4 times. How many times this Ruh al-Qudus is being mentioned? 4 times. And how many times Muhammad is being mentioned? 4 times. And how many times As-Siraj is being mentioned? 4 times. Siraj is the lamp. How many times An-Nas, human being, is being mentioned? Inna arsalnaka linnasi kaffa. We have sent you to all human beings. Bashiran wa nadhira, Allah said in Holy Quran. How many times Nas being mentioned in Holy Quran? 368 times. And how many times messengers being mentioned in Holy Quran? Ar-Rusul, 368 times. Because messengers are for human beings. Since a human being, Ayatul Nas, different places being mentioned, An-Nas, 368. Also Rusul, 368. How many times Al-Iman being mentioned in Holy Quran? And how many times Al-Ilm? Because from Iman you get Ilm, knowledge. Maqam al-Ihsan. Maqam al-Iman, Maqam al-Ihsan. How many times Iman is being mentioned in Holy Quran? We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Rabbi, from here, for the sake of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and awliyaullah, put in our hearts Iman. Ameen. Because it's the door for everything. Ameen. So how many times we are, Ya Rabbi, in every time you mentioned in Holy Quran, open an ocean of Iman in our hearts. Ameen. It is mentioned, ذكر كلمة الإيمان ومشتقاته في القرآن الكريم ومشتقاتها في القرآن الكريم 811 times. Al-Iman. So a lucky person who has a daughter and call her Iman. Fatima, Aisha, Khadija, Allah Akbar. So when you have Iman, what you have? We said, Ilm, knowledge. How many times knowledge is being mentioned in Holy Quran? Ilm? 811 times. How many times purity is mentioned in Holy Quran? At-Tuhur, to be clean, 31 times. How many times sincerity, ikhlas, is being mentioned in Holy Quran? 31 times. How many times ad-diq, someone to have diq, either from wealth, he doesn't have money, or depressed, ضيق الصدر, constrained. It is this person who is constrained in his life. How many times is mentioned? 13 times. And how many times طمأنينة is mentioned? طمأنينة is to feel happy, peaceful, satisfied. Same, 13 times. How many times al-la'na is being mentioned? Curse is mentioned 41 times in Holy Quran. And how many times karahiyya, hate, is being mentioned in Holy Quran? 41 times. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد. So with this we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us. Amen. May Allah forgive us. Amen. And bless us. Amen. With His endless blessings. Amen. That's miracle by itself. No need to continue. But Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if the al-ghalib ala al-abd,
he was overtaken.
Wherever, if the servant of Allah is overtaken by remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always, I will make, Allah says, I will make hammahu wa ladzatahu fi dhikri. I make all his concern and all his pleasure in my remembrance. And what we have just explained of different words in Holy Quran, how many times been mentioned, and the opposite of the word how many times, show us how much zikrullah, if you do zikrullah, how much you will be saved from these bad things, a characteristic that has been mentioned. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will dress you with from His beautiful names and attributes. And He said, when I dress him from my pleasure and I take the veils between me and him, لا يسهو إذا سهى الناس. At that time he will not be deviated, heedless when people are heedless. He will be alert always. أولئك كلامهم كلام الأنبياء. This kind of people who their pleasure, I dress them from my pleasure and they like and they are always in my pleasure, their words are like the words of prophets. And that's why he said, علماء أمتي كأنبياء بني إسرائيل. Saints of my ummah are like the prophets of Bani Israel. Here ulama, he said ulama as-salihin, yani ulama, those who are pious and sincere, as Allah called them, ألا إن أولياء الله لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. Those, their words are like prophets' words. And he mentioned, repeating it, قل كلام أولئك كلامهم كلام الأنبياء. Those people, their words are like words of prophets. And he said أنبياء means Bani Israel, the prophets of Bani Israel. أولئك الأبطال الأبدال حقا. They are the substitute. أولئك الذين إذا أردت بأهل الأرض عقوبة أو عذابا ذكرتهم فصرفته عنهم. If I decide, Allah is saying, if I decide a punishment on people on earth, I will mention these servants of mine, that their concern is my pleasure. I will mention their names, I take the punishment away. May Allah take the punishment away from us and keep our heart always with zikrullah. ومن الله التوفيق بحرمة الفاتحة. Now those who are ومن الله التوفيق والسلام عليكم.